Hi, I'm Deborah Uden. Your business may not be exporting today, next week, or next month, but in growing the business, you can be ready for when the opportunity strikes. Let's discover, diversify, and grow more business in 2022. Welcome, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to the first session of Passport for Growth for 2022. My name is Deborah Uden. I'm the export consultant with NLOWE, and we're going to spend a few minutes today looking at getting ready for more business in 2022. This session is going to be in three small sections. So I'm going to provide an overview of NLOWE and its business services. Then we're going to be joined by Michelle Hostler, who is going to present the Gateway to Trade program that we are planning to offer very, very soon, pending funding. We have to wait until we can get all of that in place, but we'd like to at least get the information out to you about the program. And then we're going to hear from some previous participants in the Gateway to Trade program. We've had 2 iterations of the program already, and this would be the third pending funding. And so we're going to hear from some program participants and what their experiences are. So as a business owner, when you start a business, you've got that big idea, and then there are all these steps that you're going to take along the way to further develop the business. And from the idea stage, a lot of times you have to look well into the future to see where you may plan to go, what you may need to do. And sometimes you have to think well beyond the actual startup stage to make some of the decisions that you'll need to have later on. So once you're off the ground and your business is up and running and starting to grow, you're more likely going to look at either new products or services or adjusting any of them. And you're likely going to look at other markets as well in many different ways to get your business growth, because you really don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. We know what can probably happen there. So while you're on the track for your business growth, some things that will help you really steady the course is when you're really focused on what your business is doing and how you're doing it and how you're growing. And in being focused, you're also going to look at different aspects of research. You're going to ask many different questions, and you're going to be building a team around you, a team of either employees or consultants or contractors. And with that comes a lot of the resources and everything around there as well. So there are all these things that you're going to consider and as you're growing your business to help steady that course. So there's a lot of information out there, and you want to be able to find it efficiently and effectively. And in the process of developing the business for growth, many businesses look at selling their products or services outside the province and outside the country. And when you look at doing that, you may start to think about whether or not it's even suitable. Then you'll go through some stages of, well, what do I need in order to do that? How do I really get ready? What about the activity itself? And these kinds of decisions and the information that you need to gather along the way, they take some time. So if you're developing your business and considering some of those things too, you're ready when the opportunity strikes. You're out there and you can make that decision about how you're going to do it because you've done all the background work and you have some solid basis for things. So as an organization, NLOWE itself provides a lot of supports and services for women-owned businesses. We have a number of sessions, such as this session, Passport for Growth. We have programs like the Gateway to Trade one that we're going to mention. We have Business Beginnings program. We have an annual conference, and we have various events such as networking events. And within all of that, we also have in the organization itself a number of business advisors throughout the province, throughout the island of Newfoundland and in Labrador. So no matter where you are in this province, there you have access to a startup advisor and a growth advisor, and an export consultant, and some of the other team in NLOWE as well. But what I wanted to mention here is that as startup advisors and growth advisors, and as the export consultant, we all work really closely together. So even if you're starting up a business and you're thinking, well, maybe my business has export potential, maybe the startup advisor and the export consultant and you would like to have that conversation. Or the same with the growth advisors. So anywhere you are along the stage of your business growth, we're there for you. And of course, then there are other members of the team as well who offer other programs, such as the Business Beginnings program, and they're there as well. So basically, we all work together because at the end of the day, the most important thing to us, and I'm sure to you too, is that your business succeeds, that you do well in your business, that you've started your business, you've grown the business, and you really advanced the business. But then it's not just NLOWE either. We work with a number of organizations and governments along the way, and this is a brief list of them, and there are many others. But we know some of the departments, we know some of the areas, we know the people, the players, and if we don't know it, we can find out for you. So we can also become your connector, because we don't have all the answers to things, but we can help you find the answers, and we can help sort of drill down into being very efficient and effective in finding the right information, the right resources to move your business forward. So the really big thing in all of this is that you don't have to go it alone. There are all types of supports out there, and we're all here for your business growth, whether it's NLOWE, another organization, another arm of government. We all want to see women in business succeed, because that's a real backbone to our economy, and it makes a huge difference in the country. And in making all those differences, one of the things that we are planning to offer later this month, early February, and there will be an expression of interest, an application type process for it, is a session known as NLOWE Gateway to Trade. And we're planning to offer this pending funding, but it's designed for businesses that are in a growth or an export development area. So right now I'm going to introduce Michelle Hustler, who's the consultant we're working with for the Gateway to Trade program. And she's going to provide an overview of the program that we've designed for an 8-week duration, and give you some idea of what it's really made of. Michelle?
Thank you, Deborah. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michelle Hustler. I'm a certified international trade professional, and I am co-developer of Gateway to Trade. Deborah, if you would just shut that off and I would share my presentation then. Perfect, thank you. Okay. So this is my very favorite trade quote. I'm sorry. And it has some relevance here. It says, it doesn't matter how good the trade agreements are, how good intercountry relationships are, or how attractive one country's goods and services may be to people in another country. Without trade-capable people, trade won't flourish. And I really want to emphasize that point. Without trade-capable people, trade won't flourish. So what's it saying? It doesn't matter. You could have the best products in the world, but you need to build trade capacity. You need to build knowledge and understanding of how trade happens. And this is what we're here to do. This is what Gateway to Trade is about. So also to encourage you, there are some characteristics of exporting SMEs. SMEs that export, they are larger, they're more productive, they're more innovative, they have higher revenues, they grow faster and fail less, they are more resilient to market shocks because they're diversified in different markets. They hire more employees and pay higher wages. They tend to invest back into their business, investing also into research and development, ICT, training, equipment. So this is to encourage you why you might be interested in the program. So what's Gateway to Trade? Gateway to Trade is an export acceleration training program. The program adopts a methodical approach to trade, taking the participants through 12 modules of export preparation. It's practical, and practical by the way of there will be exercises after every week. It's hands-on. And it all eventually leads, all of the training and all of the exercises guides the participants to the development of an export plan. This is the final kind of ultimate objective of the program, is that you will leave the program with a export plan. So what does it look like? A little bit more details. These are the 12 stages, and these are somewhat modified depending on the needs of the group that we're working with, but more or less they look like this. So stage 1 is a preparing your business stage, and there's 3 modules under this stage. Is an introduction to exporting. It's assessing export readiness, where we conduct an export readiness assessment to see where participants are at right now. Developing your export plans. This is an introduction to the template, and we do this very early on in the process because this is a exercise that we need to continue to work on throughout the remainder of the 8 weeks. We look at market research and where we can find market research and how do we conduct market research. We look very closely at our target market and our target customer. We discuss marketing through marketing basics, and then looking at how to develop an online strategy that's also export focused, and tips beyond your website, like search engine optimization and so forth. We look at things like winning businesses, the tips and tricks in there, for example, the cultural sensitivities to exporting, market entry strategies, things like virtual trade shows, virtual trade missions, market visits, and so forth. And then we explore some of the financial and legal aspects. Now, Gateway to Trade is an evolution built over 25 years and slowly evolving into what it is now. It's been delivered in, as is, it's been delivered in about a half a dozen countries, but it's through the experience of 50 countries and the collective experience of over 100 years by the developers who have developed this program. Now, the training is paired with a coaching element. So every week you will be asked to complete an exercise, and every week we'll provide you with some feedback on these exercises. There's also feedback on the export plan. So when you finally finish an export plan, we will provide you with some guidance on how to strengthen that. We will also be conducting website assessments on how you can strengthen your web presence. We'll be looking at your value proposition. If you don't have one, we'll be looking at developing it. And if you do have one, we'll be looking at tweaking it and making sure that it's really impactful. We'll also be developing company profiles, and these are useful, especially in the context of trade shows or in trade missions. We'll be developing your own company profile. So as is, the program's been elaborated in Colombia, Costa Rica, Ukraine, and Trinidad and Tobago, but parallel programs have been recently delivered in Canada. This is the NLOWE program that we've done twice previously in Bangladesh, in Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, Indonesia, Jordan, Vietnam, and we're about to do an iteration of this program in Cambodia as well. So what is your commitment to this program? As Deborah mentioned, it's 2 hours, over 8 weeks, and we're doing 2 hours of training a week. We're very flexible about when the training can happen. Past iterations have happened in the evening time. If that works best, we'll be doing assessment and needs assessment of sorts to see what training time works best and what day of the week works best for the participants. And then it's about another hour or two work on your assignments. And the assignments range from things like building a customer profile, to looking at your website and doing website assessments, to doing cross-cultural negotiations, for example. And the final output, again, is the export plan. You'll have to spend a little bit longer on this exercise. So in addition to the maybe 1 or 2 hours a week you spend on assignments, depending on your company and the state it is right now, you might need to spend another 3 or 4, or even longer in some cases, hours working on your export plan. These are some testimonials. So I just wrapped up the training in Trinidad and Tobago. We were training 4 different sectors. So we are training 4 days a week for the 4 different sectors. And this is some of the feedback. I'm not going to read you this, but I'll leave this on the screen. for just a minute that you can read some of the feedback that the participants have sent me in the last few weeks about the training program, and I'll give you a better idea of what to expect. And I'm also happy to send the slide deck if anybody wants to read this in more detail. But we do have testimonials from 2 of our past NLOWE participants. This is a little bit on me, but as I mentioned, I'm a certified international trade professional. I've been a consultant working in trade development for about 19 years now. I've worked in over 30 countries and for all the major international organizations. I have a few listed here, but there's many more. I'm the co-developer of Gateway to Trade, as I mentioned, and also Services Go Global, which is a services sector specific export training program. Good. So I'm going to pass you back to Deborah, who's going to pass you on to some of our past participants.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for that fabulous, concise, and detailed review of Gateway to Trade and what we're going to offer. And I'm sure there are participants out there now who already are starting to have some questions. I'm going to open things up with Jess and Catherine. Jess Chapman has E3 Consulting, and Catherine Taylor Mousseau has Catherine Taylor Media, and they have both participated in the Gateway to Trade program. So I'm going to let them tell you a little bit of what they really got from the program. And because most importantly, it's what the businesses get from the program that we want to see and to develop further. So Jess, if you'd like to take it away there, please.
Sure. So I run 2 companies. One is a consulting company and one is an online training organization. And I originally looked at the program. I had this merry thought in my head that we would go after the US market, which for e-learning and other virtual training is huge. And I thought, it's just like Canada. It can't be that hard. It's just like doing business in Canada. We'll just go and, expand our business into the States. So signed up for the program and very quickly realized that I was not remotely ready for moving the business into the US, which was great because otherwise I would have gone in and done a bunch of things and probably fallen over and made lots of mistakes. I found the program extremely helpful in practically walking through a number of aspects of what we were trying to do in terms of growing the export side of the business. Some things I already had touched, but there's lots in the program that even if you're quite successful in what you're doing, that's kind of new in terms of the market that you're in. The Readiness Assessment in particular was really helpful and helped us kind of narrow in on a few things that we just didn't have in place if we were going to start looking at the US. And both Michelle and Deb know tons, so I would really encourage you to make full use of the program and ask as many questions as you possibly can. So we've actually just signed on. We're in the process of signing on with our second US client now. So I signed a contract with the first one earlier this year, and we're in negotiations with one of the state universities to become a provider with them. We actually now have proper accounting help for the US tax side of things, which is quite complicated, and a bunch of other things which I probably would have tripped over if I hadn't gone through the program and kind of built my awareness of that. So it's really good. You do have to make time for it because, there's a lot we cover in the program and the activities are really important. So it's not something to try and put on top of everything else. You do need to carve out proper time to go through the program. But if you are seriously thinking about expanding, it's well worthwhile.
That's great, Jess. Thank you very much. And Catherine, would you like to add your review of things, please?
There we go, I'll unmute. Just to Jess's last point about making the commitment, if you're sitting there and you're thinking, how am I going to do this? But it is important to keep that in mind, because what you bring into this program is what you take away from it. But I will tell you that I looked so forward to every meeting that we had, every session. I learned something new that challenged me, and it didn't seem like a heavy weight at all to go and work on the things that we were given to work on. And there was a great deal of support within our group, and also from Michelle and from Deb. And that helped very much in expanding your abilities and things that you might not have thought about before. And in my case, my product is virtual. I produce shows, and I hadn't thought whether or not that this would be suitable for me. When I heard about the program, I was, well, do I export? Do it? What, my product's out there. It's out there on YouTube. I am exporting. Every time I do a show, I'm exporting anywhere in the world where people speak English. So I thought, hey, this might be good for me. Maybe I'll learn something about what I can do. And I did. I was extremely glad that I did the program, because I had not thought about my business as a business. I thought about, well, I'm going on and I'm telling stories each week on my show, but I hadn't thought about it in terms of a product. Who might like to take this product? How can I get into other markets? How do I develop more audiences for my shows? And even in terms for myself, I was looking at Canada primarily, and now I'm thinking bigger than that. And a lot of the things that I took away and found so beneficial were getting me to think beyond my boundaries and to think outside of possibility. And by doing the research and the projects that Michelle would bring up each week, I did quite a bit of investigating about who's doing the kind of thing that I'm doing. How is it working in other markets? How might I present it? What would people be looking for? If I have a partnership, who could I work with in other countries to take my shows farther? So these were the kind of things that came up that were answered for me through the program. And I enjoyed doing the marketing export plan, but it was intimidating. I felt a bit intimidated about doing it and where to start, but it was great. Once I got in there, I discovered a lot of things that I could bring to my shows, that I could even integrate into shows that, hey, will make it easier to bring them to other markets. And I still refer to that now. I go back to the plan and I look at, oh, here's what I was thinking that I could do. Am I doing it? So it's a really great guide, worth the time that you would put into it. But again, the time is the part. Once you make a commitment to do this, I think it has to be an honest commitment, because Michelle expects you to show up and she wants your work done. And everyone is looking for input. We're all sharing with each other and keeping in touch with each other. But the ideas and the camaraderie, the support to be found in here is wonderful. And again, really just looking down, I had made a couple of things, but the key thing for me, it really opened my mind to become more strategic about where I could go and what I could do.
That's great, Catherine. Thank you very, very much. And I'm just wondering if we have any questions there that anyone would like to, we have 2 past participants who can tell you the good, bad, and the ugly of it all. And and Michelle as the presenter for the program. And just to let people know, I was part of the program as well, because sometimes there were things that, were very specific to Newfoundland and Labrador businesses that we'd like to discuss, or there may be connections that would be better made or anything like that. So I was also part of the program. So it was quite a team that we had put together as far as the participants and the presenters for the event. Okay. I don't see any questions there. You don't mean we may have answered absolutely everything that anyone was ever wondering about Gateway to Trade program. So as I mentioned earlier, this is pending funding, but we will open up the expression of interest, which is basically just an idea to see who you are and what business you're in and what you may be looking for in relation to the program. We'll then do a needs assessment and to determine, what the businesses are looking for. We will open it up to a variety of businesses, and in some ways a variety of stages, because sometimes very early on in a business you have to start making decisions about how you're going to grow and where you're going to grow. So a lot of the participants were, or I should say the participants were in various stages of the business, but the one thing that they had in common, which I think is what Jess and Catherine were talking about as well, is that they were open-minded to becoming more strategic and looking at new markets or looking at developing their business further. In other words, really looking for growth there.
Deb, there's a question in the Q&A from Winifred.
Okay.
about what types of businesses are represented on the program. And I was going to say it might be worth talking about that because we had the service product split thing in our group when we did it.
Yes, we did. And, there's a difference in some ways with products and services, but in other ways, they're all business commodities that you're going to be selling there as well. And Michelle, would you like to add anything else to that about the approach?
Right. So I think the Deborah, you answered the question. It's all types of businesses that the program's open to this iteration as well. You could be a strictly services-based company like Catherine's company and Jess's company. You could also have a product. We'll be addressing it in a general enough way that everything will be relevant to both sectors, whether you're selling a product or you're selling a service. And across subsectors. So it doesn't matter which services subsector you're in or which manufacturing subsector you're in, there will still be relevance to your business.
Thank you. And the export plan that we've mentioned along the way, everyone has mentioned, we're not looking at something that's going to be 40 or 50 pages or anything. We're looking at something that's very concise and very simple to make decisions and to follow. And a lot of it can be brought over from your business plan. If you have a very strong business plan, then a lot of that can be moved into your export plan. Probably the only major difference is, where you're looking at the markets, and your client may change a little bit, and then, some of the how and how to do those kinds of things. So there will be some differences, but those are the kinds of questions that we consider and that we answer along the way as a group.
From my point of view, when I thought about doing that plan, I felt a little intimidated, but there's a very good template. And also Michelle is there to guide you through that. And perhaps for me, the most challenging part was doing the research. Where would I go for my research? And there are different resources. I used ACOA. There were different people I contacted to provide information for me, as well as doing it independently. So I think, Michelle, you provided a lot of ideas for us and ways for us to get started on that plan so that we could integrate it each week. And as you went through the module, you could more or less take that part of your training and plug it into your plan. So you could work it as you went along. It didn't have to be a big elephant at the end of the trail.
Definitely. Something you want to, because you don't want it to be a big elephant at the end. So you do need to peck at it throughout the 8 weeks so that you don't feel overwhelmed at the end when we're expecting the export plan to be turned in and feel like it's a burden. It won't be a burden if you continue to work at it a little bit each week on the relevant section. And yes, it's templated, so the template is easy to work with. And Catherine mentioned something when she was speaking earlier about referring back to it. An export plan is definitely a living document. It's a document that you don't want to just finish once and then never look at again. You pull it back out, you add to it, you omit things from it that are no longer relevant. You keep breathing life into an export plan. So even if it's not 100%, it will never be 100% finished because it's always evolving.
Did you, Michelle, we worked with Google Classroom. Is that still the platform that the program is using?
Yeah, I'm still using Google Classroom. So if anybody, I happen to live in Barbados, and all the students in Barbados are using Google Classroom as a platform. I'm not sure what they're using in Newfoundland for the students platform. Is it different? Each school is using something different or not using anything?
As they're using Google Classroom, I don't know if all the schools are consistent though. So
right. So the point is, it's pretty easy. It's very intuitive. There's not a lot of tabs. The children are picking it up quite young and able to navigate that platform. I will introduce it at the beginning and just walk everybody through it in case you are a little bit intimidated with technology. But the young students have picked it up and they're doing fine. You'll be fine with the technology as well.
Also add, like, one of the best things for me about the program, which might sound a bit odd, was doing something and going, I have no idea about that. Like, I really don't know how to answer that question. I don't even really know that I understand what you're asking me. And that. Okay, because that's the stuff that you want to find out, right? You don't want to start trying to grow and put all your money and time and energy and effort into something and then realize that you are missing a trick or missing a piece of information. So we're talking a lot about the time and the commitment and everything else, which is important, but I don't want anyone to get the impression that it's that tangly, because it's totally fine to be in the course and be like, I really don't know about any of this. I don't know what that is. I don't know how that applies to my business. Help. And I really liked that it was a mixed group of people with very different types of business, because when we broke out into doing the activities and things, you'd get ideas and input from other people. So there's a lot of opportunities to get help with the stuff that you don't know how to do, which for me is kind of the whole point.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jess. And those breakout groups were really great. We got a chance to work together, and there was always the option. Michelle's integration with us was ongoing, because if we handed in homework, she would give us feedback or we could work on it. So it was very supported. And I'm glad that you brought it up, Jess. We really weren't left on our own to try and figure out things that we weren't comfortable or clear with. There was a lot of support for all of that throughout the program.
Thank you. There's a question here. If, for example, I'm looking to set up my business in another country, would this be useful? Not necessarily trade. Any comments on that part?
Yeah, well, setting up your business in another country is mode 3 in services exporting. That's exactly what trade is too. Trade and investment they hold hands. So that would be an example of mode 3 exporting, if you were selling a service and setting up a shop in another country. So yes, it would definitely be relevant to you too.
One of the things I like too in the program that we brought out were to get you thinking about what are the laws of other countries and what are the cultural expectations of other countries. So it will kind of put that hat on your head to think, if you're thinking of going with your service into another country, it's another country. So how do you research that? How do you take your product in and be most successful? It's similar when people come here into Canada or Newfoundland and they've come from another country. So the program is very good at getting you to think ahead and pre-pave those kind of plans and decisions. So relevant to that question, yeah, it would be very helpful.
The network piece too, right? So I think it would be totally relevant, because Michelle talked about exporting means lots of different things. We often think it's selling something from here to there, but it can be a whole bunch of different things. But even beyond doing the program, I have had so much value since the program through my connection with Deb and getting access to people who can help and talking to the trade commissioners and just trying to navigate the system around some of this stuff that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't done the program, because we wouldn't have had conversations about what I was trying to do. So, you know, the content, the program is fantastic, but also having the connection to two people who have the level of experience that Michelle and Deb do is, I think, invaluable.
Thanks, Jess. Yeah, we really do try to work through that list of organizations and governments and everything, but until we know exactly where your business is going, and I think that's what we had the opportunity to see in this program, is that you know, everyone's business was doing different things, but we got to understand some of the nuances in that. So then when it came to actually working with the businesses, we could be even more beneficial in that sense, in making those connections, you know, and even making the connections with each other, you know, in the comments that were shared amongst the participants as well, because lots of times they had the answers, not necessarily anyone else. Yeah. And for any of you who are also wondering about the commitment, one of the things that we did with the program was we recorded the sessions. And so that you could access them at another time, either for further review, if there was something you didn't quite understand, or if you missed the class. And Michelle and I were always available if you required any other information or anything as well, or, you know, any other detail.
One great feature of Google Classroom, probably my favorite feature of Google Classroom, is it has a feed, something similar to like a Facebook feed, where if you did have a question, you could post it on the feed and other people could answer the question. The participants could feed in as well. And so I am accessible and the participants are accessible. basically the whole 8 weeks anytime you wanted to reach out.
And there was a lot of information shared that way too, and
There was,
it was really beneficial. Mhm.
Yeah, well, I mean, there were parts where I think I'm trying to think back. It was a little while ago, but we put something up and then it might have been, say, for example, a mission statement, but we were trying to find the right words and what to say. So we'd share that. And it was surprising to get the perspectives from other people helping you to refine it, or they would see maybe your business in a different way and raise a point. So it was that type of sharing on the platform, exactly what Michelle is referring to. It was really great and supportive. And actually, I don't know if I've said it, but the program was a lot of fun. We had a lot of laughs. We created new friends. And so we are talking about the heavier parts of it, but there were also so many other parts that were really great. As I said, I looked forward to we did them Tuesday evenings, and those 2 hours flew by. Loved it.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions or anything there as well now while we're steeped in gateway to trade? We thought we'd do this information session to give you a little bit of a better idea as to what the program is made of. I should also mention as well that ACOA and the Provincial Department of Innovation, Energy and Technology were very involved in the program, and so we greatly appreciate their contributions to it all, and they made it happen for us. And they also made it happen very affordably for NLOWE clients as well. And we'll likely be keeping the same structure, the same fee structure that we had for last session, which was $150 for members and $200 for non-members. And upon the completion of the program, and including the export plan, half of that was returned. So it was, I think, a pretty decent deal that we set up. I see some nodding there, so but you know, it's not a very big investment for a huge return on the, you know, the development of you and your business in that sense. So we hope to have that the same. And as we mentioned, it's an 8-week program. Within that 8 weeks, we cover 12 modules, and and then at the end, you're given a little bit of time to complete the export plan as well. But basically, as Michelle mentioned, the export plan is talked about very early in the program, so that you can then populate the plan with things as you need, you know, as we go along, because everything that's covered in the program actually has a placement in the plan also pretty well, except maybe a few other questions that we had. Okay, anything else there? Any other questions from participants? Okay. Anyone else like to add anything or have any other comments? Or
I think I've covered what I had to say. I hope. Yeah, I will say this, and I am available if you want to reach out to me. Some people aren't as comfortable in on a setting like this to ask their questions. So if you wanted to reach out to me, and I'm sure Jess would be the same way, we'd be happy to talk to you one-on-one.
Thank you very much. That's because sometimes the businesswoman, you have a different kind of discussion or a different chat at that time too.
Well, I always find I listen to things and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. And then 24 hours later, I'm like, no, I have a ton of questions. So yes, absolutely happy to chat to anyone that wants to talk about the program.
Thank you. Okay. Just checking the questions in that here. I don't know if there's anything else. Michelle, would you like to add anything else to the program there, to the discussion?
No, I think I am I'm good. I am also available, however, for questions. So if anybody did want to reach out specifically about the program or something very specific, I'm happy to answer anything that comes up.
Thank you. So, okay. And of course, I am as well as the other business advisors. You know, they know some things about the program. They've had participants in the program. We've had lots of chats around that. So there's a whole wealth of information out there that you can glean from any of us around if you want to have that bit of a chat around those things. And oh yes, the one thing that I was thinking about mentioning that when I stalled a little bit, I now remember, is that one of the things about this program is that it really contributes to your business development and potential export, so that when there's a lot being done export wise now, virtually and everything, but when we get back to, or when we get some form of trade missions or trade events and conferences and everything, and you're looking at, is this opportunity right for me? The chances that you'll be able to answer that question very quickly and know exactly where you're going and what you're doing, because you have put the time into planning and making some of those decisions. I think that will be much easier for you to decide, because one of the things about any aspect of business growth, and especially if you're looking at export, is you really need to start planning today for what you're probably going to do in 6 months, a year, or 2 years from now. And when you take the time now to do it, then you're right ready when an opportunity presents itself and they say, oh yes, there's a trade mission for such and such a place and here's the focus. And then you have an idea, well, my business is going this way. Is this exactly where I want to be? And then you can answer accordingly. And I will give you another example about that as well, because one of the people in the program wasn't thinking about exporting really at all, but she was looking at some business growth. And she was approached by a company in the US who said, we're interested in contracting you to do this piece of work. And she went, oh, there are a few things I have to get in place here, but I know what I need to get in place. And then I can decide whether or not I'm going to do the piece of work. And that's one of the things that I think for a lot of people, the program answered was, here's what I need. And it goes back to what Jess was talking about very early in her presentation, is, you know, she got to know the things that she needed to. And Catherine mentioned the same thing about where I can go with things and how I can get there. So I think those are, you know, good testimonials to what the program can bring to your business and getting you from point A to point B, or getting you ready so that you can make that decision. So, hey, there's an opportunity here. I'm ready. That's the difference. Okay. Anything else there? Okay, I don't see any other questions. I see some comments that, from another past participant who would highly recommend the program, found it very helpful and supportive and doable. So good words there. Thank you very much, Susan. And okay, so if there are no other questions for at the moment, but you have questions later on, feel free to reach out to anyone. And thank you all very much for participating in this session. And thank you, Michelle and Jess and Catherine, for your contributions to it. Hopefully people have gained a lot more information about the program, may consider some options, and maybe have some questions about it as well. So anywhere along the way, feel free to reach out. NLOWE is here for women-owned businesses, and we're all here in a role to support the businesses and look at greater success along the way. So once again, thank you everyone for participating, and have a lovely day, and maybe we'll get to see some blue skies soon.